Welcome to Texas Motor Speedway, the second stop on the NTT IndyCar Series for 2023. You'll notice that the track is quiet today because this is the rare Friday where there is no track activity for an IndyCar Series race. Now, tomorrow is completely the opposite. Essentially, from 8 o'clock in the morning through to the truck race tomorrow, essentially we're going to have, I think, over 12 hours of nonstop racing action, which will be great. But Texas Motor Speedway, this is my first time I've ever been at the full weekend. Now, last year, I did a red-eye flight from the 12 hours of Sebring to come here and cover this race, but I was on 2 hours of sleep. So I hope you'll enjoy my first full Texas Motor Speedway weekend of coverage, I guess we'll say. And we're going to start without any track activity to talk about, but we did talk to a bunch of the key competitors in this 28-car field. Yes, 28. We've got Takuma Sato for Chip Ganassi Racing joining the field this weekend, as well as Ed Carpenter Racing in his traditional third car for Ed Carpenter Racing, believe it or not. So there were key points I talked to the drivers about. If it's a rookie, we talked about the test they had here a couple of weeks ago. If it's a veteran, we're talking about top groove. We're talking about potential reconfiguration. We're talking about things that happened at St. Petersburg, because you might need a refresher. It's been a couple of weeks since that race happened. I think these are some of the best interviews we've got so far. We've got a really fun one with Santino and Renus. I think you're really going to enjoy. And I hope you'll enjoy the rest of the coverage for the rest of the week. So tomorrow, track activity, but first, let's hear from the key combatants. I was at Sebring. Where were you? Your car won.
So bittersweet. I wish I was in Sebring. You know, I think they only allowed 3 drivers. It's just the way it shook out. It's the way it shook out. I was trying to be there, and it didn't materialize. But I was really happy for that crew. You know, I felt like that. You know, Tower Motorsports really deserved a better result at Daytona, and I know how hard we worked to get back to 2 laps down and finish 5th, and knew they were capable of winning a race. So I was really proud of Scott, John, Kiffin, the whole team, really the whole crew. I mean, it was just bittersweet. I wanted to be there with them, but to see them win it, I was really happy for them.
You won here last year. High Groove, the biggest story. You worked the High Groove to win last year. What are you expecting this year?
I think I need to use the High Groove sooner. You know, that's what I thought at the very last lap, last corner. I was like, why wasn't I up here earlier in the race? So I think there's opportunity to get up there, people to use it more. We're going to have more downforce. You know, let's see what happens. Until you get on track, it's hard to tell, but I think the opportunity is there to increase the race, yeah.
Our friend Darian posted a pretty good social media post talking about tracks that we'd like to see in IndyCar. Yeah. And you brought up Vegas, and a lot of people have had a problem with that. So I want you to defend that choice.
Well, I mean, it's not necessarily something to defend. When you ask what do you think would be a good race, like that is one. Yeah. I mean, obviously everyone knows what happened there was awful, and we all hate it, right? But I think that was also a completely different era. And if you look at, racing is dangerous. We've had difficult things happen at multiple other tracks too. So I don't understand that theory. And if it's still, something that is, I don't know. I think if you just answer the actual question like a person that's thinking logically, you're like, yeah, that would probably be a great race. You know what I mean? And it's a great market too. Like, why is Formula One going there? Well, because it's a great market. So you just have to think about it logically. I'm sorry. Like, it's just that is what it is.
Logical thinking is tough on Twitter.
It's tough. Yeah, I've noticed that a lot lately. Yeah.
Okay. The other, I guess, controversial one I'll ask you about is, we've heard the rumors about a reconfiguration here. It could be as early as next year. We don't know yet. Do you want to see this place turned into an Atlanta-style racetrack, or what do you think is the ideal Texas Motor Speedway if they change it?
I mean, honestly, just what Texas was before we got to this Turn 1. That was it. I mean, that's the racing that I watched when I was a kid that I loved. And yeah, that's it. Like, I would love to race at Atlanta. Like, Atlanta looked awesome. Like, obviously it would be fast for us, and we would probably be racing close. So if that is scary, well, then we probably won't go there. But, part of what makes this racing so cool is the diversity in our schedule, right? We've got a place like Texas, we've got Iowa, we've got St. Louis. But, like, adding a place like Michigan would be super awesome too. You know what I mean? But it's,
Now you're speaking my language.
But like all this stuff about being too fast, it's like, well, there's a reason we made these cars safer. There's a reason why we put a giant capsule on the top of the freaking thing, because safety, right? So like, if you do things for the car to be safer, then why avoid the things that we went away from because the car wasn't as safe? I mean, like, yeah, that's all I'm saying.
Here's the mic, drop it.
Well,
No.
I mean, it's just simple. Like, make the cars safer. Great, they're safe. I mean, it's like they're super safe. I don't know. Yeah.
You have been a great story, I think, this season. You had a crash course in English. You had a great lead lap finish at St. Petersburg, and now you're doing something that I imagine is completely alien to you in oval racing. Is there anything that translates from the touring cars that you're used to in Argentina versus doing this 200 miles an hour?
Oh, yes. It's a big change. It's a huge change. But for me, that it's a good opportunity too. I am really happy to be here, because I can't believe it. I will do an oval race in IndyCar, honestly. I can't believe it, and I'm really happy with this situation.
So when you were testing here, you kind of have an advantage in some ways, because the rookies get an extra test day here at Texas Motor Speedway. What was your impression of the car? Was there anything you kind of learned? Do you think you're going to be able to become comfortable at this kind of racing?
At the beginning, oh my God, what I am doing here. But after that, at the end of the day, I started to feel better. I started to feel the limit. I started to feel the car, and I am finished with a smile, but I started very serious.
How much has Callum been able to help you? I know that his oval experience is only a little bit more than yours, but have you been able to talk with him? Has he been able to help you kind of on that learning curve?
Yes, he helped me a lot. I am really grateful to Callum, because he helped me a lot all the time. He's an amazing driver, and he's very kind with me. So for me, have Callum together in the team is a really good chance to learn every day.
So the final thing I want to ask you about is just kind of an overview. How does an Argentinian touring car champion end up in IndyCar? Was this something that you dreamed about doing, or is this just something that was, unexpected?
No, unexpected, definitely unexpected, because I did my entire career there with the touring car. I have 33 years old. I'm not a younger man, but Ricardo trusts me when I drove for his team on 2019 on Daytona, and after my test, he trusts me. Of course, it's a huge challenge, a very risky decision for the both sides, because in my country I won a lot of championships. I am very calm. I was in my comfort zone.
Yeah.
But not now. I have to work a lot with my physical condition, learning about the cars, about the tracks, about the English. I am learning English too, so everything is really new for me.
All right, Callum, you're always a good quote. So you've done a season of oval racing. How are you getting on with it?
I'm a good quote. All right, I'll start with that. So am I poetic, stoic? I don't know what the definition of that is. Okay. Yeah, how am I getting on with oval racing? I don't know, really. The Iowa and Gateway were great steps for me. When I came here last year, that was my first oval, and that was a real kick in the arse. These guys are super competitive, super comfortable as well with it. And, we were progressing as a team, and I had a lot to learn. They really showed me up on that side, and it really amazed me how technical and fine-tuned oval racing is, just from being some couch Indy 500 watcher occasionally to actually driving this stuff. Yeah, it was pretty special. Look, I'm quite excited to come back here, because there's so much room for improvement compared to last year. I spent at least half the race last year just doing all the wrong things and not understanding why until it kind of clicked. So yeah, I'm excited to right those wrongs.
So what were some of those wrong things, and what can you kind of learn from last year to bring into this year?
Just the timing of everything. So like I would be thinking that I timed it perfectly with the guy in front and be right with the dirty air, and I'd sent it in way too hard, get stuffed on the exit, and then 3 people overtake me. You lose all the momentum, and you just get stuck in that trap. And it was kind of just anticipating everything, and you don't know until you kind of experience it how much you need to anticipate it, how much everyone's lifting, and where you can kind of go. Like, I was always worried about being on the outside of someone, because in Europe or in a high-speed corner in a normal car, you can't go on the outside of someone in the dirty air. Like, it just doesn't work. Whereas here you can put the car in different places to a certain extent. And, it's reinventing the wheel. Everything that I thought I knew was not the case. And the smoothness, the fine-tuning, the trusting in the car, it was super tough, very stressful because it's 220 miles an hour plus. And I thought most of these guys are crazy. But yeah, you have to, I have to trust him, I have to trust myself when we're side by side, and that's not easy to do at that speeds.
I asked David about this, and it's, I guess the best example I have to give is that, the downforce swing this year is a lot different. You've got a lot more downforce. I guess Indianapolis was probably the best place you experienced a big downforce swing between qualifying and race trim. Are you comfortable with more downforce, less downforce? How are you expecting this race to feel versus last year's race?
I think more downforce is always better. And again, if we increase in 10-degree temperatures, that's all that downforce gone anyway. So it changes a lot, but definitely more downforce is better. I mean, we made that mistake. We had a combination of things last year in the 500 that kind of ruined it and put me in the wall, put myself in the wall as well, because I'm not innocent to all of that as well. But more downforce would have helped, and I think it's nice to know that is there for this weekend. And where is he? Agustin, who disappeared, or he's in the corner over there. He was here last week. I was there with him, and yeah, it was nice to kind of see the difference and the comfort level that you can get with the more downforce.
You brought up Agustin. He had some nice things to say about you. He said you've been extremely helpful to him, coming in from just something completely different than what he's used to. What is your relationship like with him? Has it been a positive for the team to bring him on, and where do you see his progression eventually getting to?
Yeah, look, it's not easy at all what he's done. It's even harder than, in some ways, the job I did. In a lot of ways than the job I did. So he's done a great job so far. This will be a real test for him coming to his first oval, because one thing is doing the test on your own with 2 other cars, and doing it with 25 other cars on track is just, it makes it so much more challenging. But yeah, I lived his whole journey last year. In honesty, I kind of did it on my own, so it wasn't super easy. But yeah, coming from no single-seater experience, he's done a great job so far, and he works hard. He knows where to improve. It's just IndyCar's so tough and tight. That last little bit doesn't come easily. I think there should be a good rate of improvement throughout the year, but the biggest improvement would be, I think, a second year. That would be where you see it, when you can digest everything over the winter.
All right, we're here with Smash Mouth. No, they're not Smash Mouth. They're David Malukas. Okay, first of all, explain the garb, because I think it's a pretty cool story.
So IndyCar, obviously, they wanted me to do a photo shoot, and I was like, they think I'm good looking. That's so nice. But then they gave me this clothing, and at first I was like, why am I doing a photo shoot for Tommy Bahama? But then, if you actually look, it's IndyCar. It's an IndyCar logo, so this is going to be IndyCar merch. I don't know if I'm supposed to be saying this. I don't know
You're wearing it, so.
I don't know if I'm exposing it. But, look, we got bucket hats, we got nice little palm shirts. It's going to be really cool. So I'm relaxing at Texas Motor Speedway.
And that's hard to do. We got 28 cars. The last time we were on an oval, which was a while ago, I seem to remember you figured out the high groove. Figuring the high groove out here is key to going to the front. What was your comfort level coming out of here last year, and do you think you've learned a few things in the ovals that have come after this that you'll be able to improve a little bit this year?
I've learned so much, especially from last year, man. Last year, just thinking back, I knew nothing back then compared to what I know now. Coming from ovals, especially that high line, and this track, especially like you said, it is so important. And thankfully, I have Poncho in my ear, and Poncho, he really motivates me. And he's going to put me on that high line at the right times, though, because, there's certain times to use it, and there's a lot of marbling up there. You don't want to touch it. So he's going to tell me how to use it properly, and he's going to motivate me. Poncho's he's going to be my man to put me up there.
So a lot of people, if they don't know, Poncho Carter, your spotter, won a lot of races here for Panther Racing. A lot of people will remember, like Thomas Schechter. Are you going to try to run that Schechter line on the start? I mean, there's 28 cars. You might have to get to the front in a hurry.
I mean, I don't know. We'll see if it comes in the moment. You know, maybe it'll all hit me at once, and I'll get that feeling, and I'll go for it. But I mean, it depends. If Pancho tells me to do it, I'm going to do it. Whatever he tells me, because at Gateway, whatever he told me, I did it, and it worked. So I trust him 100%.
So I think Stingray ran here a couple of weeks ago. There's a new downforce level for this race, more downforce than in previous years. You know, have you experienced a big downforce swing either in practice for the 500 or practice anywhere else? Do you have really a feel for what a lot more downforce is going to feel like on a super speedway like this?
Yeah, going from the 500, you know, when you go for preparing for many, many days, going up to qualifying, and then you go to a race setup, I mean, it is so much more downforce. And so I've gotten used to it. I know the feeling, and it's just, I mean, all around it just makes things a little bit easier, a little bit less scary. You still get the big moments with heavy fuel, but no, I mean, I think we'll see the difference. I mean, of course, he has a bit of a head start now. He's got that rookie test, which I really miss. I miss those rookie tests because now being a veteran, I realize you don't get any tests at all. Like, it's kind of just like, here you go, 30 minutes, figure it out. So we'll see how it goes.
All right, Stingray, your first super speedway event in an oval. You did have some time here at Texas Motor Speedway about a week ago. You know, describe that impression, especially versus what you're used to in the Indy Next series.
Breathtaking is the first thing that comes to mind. You know, this is the first time I've been on a track where I've had my breath taken away by the sheer speed of a car. You know, about 4 or 5 laps in, I was still in 4th gear, rolling around here trying to figure out where the line was and everything else. But yeah, this place is unbelievable. It's going to be so fast, so exciting. 28 cars in the field's a lot, so I'm interested to see how narrow that line gets when you have that many cars out there.
Yeah, that's one thing that's going to be really interesting. I know David mentioned that he's got Pancho Carter on his side. You know, David has shown that he's got some serious oval skills. You got a lot of oval talent in your camp. Does that help with your confidence going into this thing? Do you think you've got maybe a better chance than some of the other rookies with just how much the sheer amount of experience you have?
Absolutely. Yeah, and definitely pulling from last year. David had a really good rookie season at Gateway, it looked like, and based off of Takuma's qualifying spot here as well, when he was with Dale Coyne Racing, I think that we're in a good spot. I'm pretty excited.
Have you experimented much, or when you were testing here, did you get to experiment much with different lines? Were you kind of, okay, so just go, you shoot.
Yeah, when I was experimenting, I didn't want to be where I was.
Oh, wow.
So you find your way out of the groove, I think, pretty quick around here, and once you're out, you know you're out. So my experimenting was not on purpose.
So will you, when you get the opportunity, when it is on purpose, do you think at least those scares will help you a little bit?
Yeah, I think so. And I think the series has done a good job of preparing the weekend for us drivers with the highline practice. I think it's going to open up that line a little bit. At least I hope so.
Let's start on the negative and then be positive for the rest. I think you got a lot of undue crap for the incident at St. Petersburg. Can you kind of give your side of it, you know, talk us through kind of what happened there? Because, I mean, from my seat, and again, I don't have a very good seat, right? You guys got a way better seat than I do. It sure looked like you were unsighted. I mean, it didn't look like that was any kind of, you know, mistake on your part. It's just race and deal.
Yeah, exactly right. Opening, you know, the start was pretty traditional in terms of how it happened. And then, yeah, once I got just past the apex of 3, which is a blind corner, everyone's going at high speeds, right? If you see my onboard, you'll see exactly what I'm describing. But 2 or 3 cars ahead of me started fanning out like very rapidly. I saw that and recognized that, slowed down right away as much as I could, but obviously carrying a lot of speed. And by the time they had fanned out and taken all the channels away of places to escape, I unfortunately saw Dev park completely horizontally, stand still. And yeah, you could see on the broadcast from behind that I was completely locked on the brakes, trying to slow the thing down and looking for a gap, but there was just nowhere to go in that time. So yeah, pretty big incident, but you know, I wasn't even winded. Feel very fortunate with how safe the car is, and yeah, literally my number one goal for St. Pete was just to finish the race and get the experience. But when that happened, then it was so much out of my control. Obviously, it sucked a lot, but you almost kind of laugh at it in hindsight from a luck perspective, just like, well, that didn't last very long. We're going to have to move on. But no, not much I could have done differently at all. Very, very high positive notes going into this weekend. Since St. Pete had a very good test at Barber, at points of the day we were, you know, kind of mid-pack, and all the big boys were there. Came here for 2 days, had my rookie day, It rained a bit on the first day. That's why we had two to make sure we had enough mileage to be able to be signed off here. So yeah, last time I was in the car was around here, and it was very positive. So really looking forward to coming back here for this race weekend, and especially being kind of a home event for the team with AJ living here. He's going to be here this weekend with a lot of his friends, so we're going to be pushing really hard to give the strongest results we can.
The big thing, and one of the things I talked to Stingray about, and he was just like bug-eyed when I asked him this question, when we're talking about an Indy Next car, you know, going from that to going 200 miles an hour around this track in an Indy car, can you describe what that feeling is like?
Yeah, honestly, I was kind of curious myself, obviously, for my first run, what the difference was going to be, but honestly, I was just so focused on having high aim vision, being that the speeds are so high. If you're too low on your focus, then it feels fast. And the first run, I did it, and I honestly came into the team, and they asked me what it was like, and I said, honestly, it feels like a lights car around, Indy Next around Gateway, which is, you know, give or take 180, right?
Yes.
Something like that. But in that first run, we were doing like 220 around here, and so for me, I felt like it was pretty underwhelming, but you know, that I mean that as humbly as I can, because that is very fast. I know every driver has a different experience, and yeah, I'm very excited. I love the ovals, and can't wait to race around here with a lot of cars around me, and just excited.
Yeah. Did you get to experiment any with different lines? I know the top groove is always such a huge discussion here. We're going to do a practice to try to rubber it in earlier. I mean, did you move up the track any during testing? Did you get a feel of what that's like?
You know, it's to answer your question, we didn't run directly on the PJ1. The bottom line is pretty wide. You could actually fit two cars there. It would be very tight, but you could fit two cars, so we kind of played a little bit with how high on the bottom lane you could run. But I think for the sake of the test, how cold it was, how windy it was, low grip, it didn't make a lot of sense to try and run on the PJ1. I think this weekend, when we're all doing it together in a session designed for specifically to practice that, definitely I will try it. I think for the starts and restarts, you'll see people running up there, and so yeah, I think it's definitely doable at some points in the race, and I know it's not relatively that high grip, but you know, when you're starting the race, the speeds are a lot lower, and maybe you can get away with it. So honestly, the big goal is just to stay clean this week, so if it means staying on the bottom, then I think we'll prioritize that.
It's been great. We've got a lot of second-year drivers to this oval racing. What did you learn last year? How did you progress? And how confident are you going into Texas this year versus last year?
I learned one thing I didn't want to learn is how to crash. Luckily, I didn't find the wall, so that was great. But no, we had a good race going up until then. I think we were the second most overtaking car in the whole field, just behind Reno. So that was pretty great for a first oval ever. But not going into this season, I'm just trying to bring the experience I gained last year in, and trying to make that second step that I couldn't do last year. So, I mean, we'll see tomorrow.
We've talked a lot. I've been able to talk to a lot of the guys, your contemporaries like Callum and David, about downforce swings. We're running with more downforce this year. Indianapolis is probably the best comparison for you, where you had a big downforce swing between qualifying and the race. Are you more comfortable with more downforce, less downforce? You know, kind of what's your preference on these oval tracks?
Going fast, really. And I mean, it depends. A low downforce car can be loose, but it can also just be super pushy. A high downforce car will mainly just be very solid but pushy and less fast. So there's a compromise there, and it depends on the condition of the track. I mean, we see a very windy day today. Like, for example, today you would probably want to run high downforce just to make sure that the car doesn't go somewhere you don't want it to be. So, I mean, it's very day dependent and condition dependent.
So what are your expectations for this season? I know you've got the stash because you want to win a race, but I mean, how far do you think you can take it this year? How far do you think you can take this car? Multiple wins?
Well, I'm hoping for it. It would be cool to have a win in the beginning of the season and one in the end, so we can grow the stash back out. But no, I mean, I think looking at how we ended last year, I think moving into this season, I think it was pretty accurate that we could have had a podium early this season. Right now, I'm not so confident, but I think the way we're working, it's moving in the right direction, and I think it's moving quicker than it did last year. So I'll definitely say somewhat around the middle to the end of the season, we'll definitely have one, if not two.
You get an extra teammate for the Indianapolis 500. She's testing here on Monday. Catherine Legg joining the team. Are you excited to have an extra car in the mix? Do you think that's going to help data-wise, or do you think it might, add to the workload?
Well, a bit of both, really. Obviously, it will add to the workload, but I think for us three drivers, it's good to have another reference. And I'm sure she can bring something that we hadn't thought of. And it always goes that way. I mean, when I came in to do my debut in 2021, Graham asked me after, why haven't we thought of this before? And where did you learn this? And that's what we do in Europe. So you'll always learn from more people, for sure.
If I started a hashtag Save the Limo Tint, how do you feel about that?
Well, yeah, take that up with IndyCar, because apparently what I tried to do for St. Pete was still illegal. And I posted on Twitter about that.
And Twitter posts they always get a lot of attention, it seems. Okay, Texas Motor Speedway. You ran here last year. You didn't.
Yeah, I did.
You did. That's right. I forgot about that.
Where did you finish last year?
Behind you.
Oh!
That's right. You were
I use too much fuel, but I'm heavier because he's so small.
I don't know about that. I mean, I just used less fuel because I wasn't on the throttle because I had no idea what the heck was going on with no practice.
Well, I was impressed, definitely.
It was a fun day. It was a fun day.
Yeah, I don't know. I should be fired. I don't know how I forgot about that, because that was an amazing top 10 that you got here on really short notice. I think Jack got hurt, and then you were just kind of around, and then here you were. So let's talk about this year versus last year, because you're going to get a little extra downforce. Now, we see downforce swings. You two are some of the best at extracting the most out of a car on an oval track. Do you like having that extra option? Will you run more downforce, or do you want to trim that baby out?
What are you doing?
I like downforce. On this track, we need to run through grooves more often, other than restarts, because we had 7 cars on the Highline session last year. We get so much grip up there already, so with the whole field being up there in the Highline sessions now, plus more downforce, I think we could maybe run too wide.
They kind of forced us up there to do that, yeah. So I'm not upset about it, but it's nice to see that, we're going to get the groove going, and it'll be good for the sport for us. We'll be full downforce, without a doubt. I like
everyone.
it. Oh, yeah.
Everyone.
Yep. It'll be about as close to a pack race as we've ever had, in my opinion. So which will be awesome. I think IndyCar's just trying to find the fine line because we don't want a pack race because it's dangerous, but we don't want a single car parade.
We want pack racing. Yes.
Now wait a second. Have you run a pack? Neither of you have run a pack race before. You're saying you won a pack race and you haven't done it before. Now hang on. How does that work?
Well, I got Ed telling me how to do it.
And you got AJ.
Yeah, no, but still, man. I mean, I don't trust half of these kids. No way, no offense. You okay, but you've been in the sport.
I don't trust you.
Oh, come on, man. We'll duke it out. We'll be fine.
Okay, so I guess the last question I'll ask you, because you guys are veterans, there's been some talk about a reconfiguration here. Now, we have no idea if it's actually going to happen, but there's been enough solid people saying it might happen that we think it's going to happen. So what would you want to see a Texas reconfiguration be? Would you just like to see him reset turn 1 and 2? Do you want to see him turn it into Atlanta? I mean, what do you want to see him do?
Dude, don't do Atlanta. That ruined NASCAR. That track was amazing and perfect the way it was. I'm sorry I raced on it before they changed it, and I know every driver is going to agree with me. I'd love them to reconfigure 1 and 2 so we can be a little bit more wide open.
We need to get rid of the PJ1 and just the PJ1. That's the one thing.
Yes.
I think it's bumpy up there, but I think that's a nice challenge. Yeah. I think that the surface is fine. It's just the grip level there.
Turn it into a high-speed Iowa, man. Call it a day.
So 2 days from now, an IndyCar driver will be driving into the Jimmy Johnson Winner's Circle. Now, Jimmy, he's not here this year, but, I don't think we're going to be lacking in excitement. Like I said, 28 cars, more downforce, potentially a green track if it rains. It's going to be very exciting as I run into a gate because I don't know what I'm doing. But this Victory Circle, you might remember from a video I just did, and you should definitely watch that one, because right about here, Ari Leyendyk said, "Learn how to count," and then AJ slapped him, then moved him, and threw him into the flower bed that is no longer here at Texas Motor Speedway. Hashtag bring back the flower bed. But thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you'll enjoy the Texas coverage this weekend, and I hope you enjoyed my dramatic recreation of AJ getting slapped, or Ari slapping AJ, or AJ slapping Ari. Maybe someday I'll get that right. Maybe someday I'll be a professional at this. But until that time, thank you guys, and we'll see you in the next video.